YouTube. We're talking college sports in the Deep South, where college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, and we're talking about Auburn football like it is nobody's business. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn here on YouTube, and comment your opinions about Auburn football in this upcoming season. We're doing the Auburn opponent preview series 2019, and today we're going to be featuring the Oregon Ducks. Now, we've had some ongoing conversation about Oregon on this particular channel. You can actually look at the playlist, and we have some Oregon Auburn previews in there, but we wanted to, kind of combine this in with the Auburn 2019 opponent series, because we wanted to go ahead and compartmentalize this thing as we talk about the Oregon Ducks here today, so you all can get kind of a feel for what Oregon brings to the table coming to the 2019 season. Mario Cristobal, the head coach for Oregon, definitely has brought some of what he learned from Alabama to the Oregon Ducks. Definitely does a lot of great recruiting down in the South, and some of it is starting to pay off for the Oregon Ducks. Now, when we look at the offensive side of the football field for the Oregon Ducks, offense is very talented. Receivers, Dawood Davis, but they will miss the production of Dylan Mitchell, who set the season reception yards with 1,184 yards as a receiver, but have a wealth of talent receiver-wise coming back with Dawood Davis, Brian Addison, Jevon Red, and Johnny Johnson, who will be returning as the wide receivers for Oregon. Juwan Johnson was a graduate transfer at receiver for the Oregon Ducks, so he will add a lot of production here as well. Now, one of the ongoing narratives for the Oregon receivers is that they had difficulty catching the football. We would like to think that that is something that was corrected. The spring game was an indication that some of that has been corrected for the Oregon Ducks coming into the 2019 season. You talk about also in the running game, you talk about C.J. Verdell, who was very productive last year with 1,018 yards and 10 touchdowns, averaged about 5 yards per carry. He's a very physical running back, has a lot of durability, seems to get stronger as the game goes on. I think he's going to be a very, very strong force for the Oregon Ducks coming into the 2019 season as well. And probably one of the more decorated players on offense is Justin Herbert, quarterback who decided to come back for his senior year, probably a dark horse for the Heisman Trophy award. He's a very, very skilled quarterback. He also has the ability to run the football if need be. He's not at all a dual threat quarterback, but he can grind out and get those yards once coverages break down with his scrambling ability. So offensively, I think the Oregon Ducks are going to be pretty solid. They have a very, very nice sized offensive line. They average about 300 pounds per guy. And I think they will have the ability to be very physical up front against what should be one of the best defensive lines in the country from the Auburn Tigers. When you look at Derek Brown, Nick Cole, Marlon Davidson, T.D. Moultrie, Big Cat Bryant, okay? So when we look at the defensive side of the Oregon Ducks, I'm really impressed with what I see here. We did a impact player video on Caleb Kim, who is the center for Auburn. One of the guys that I'm really, really, kind of looking at as someone who's going to be a real disruptive challenge for the Auburn Tigers is Jordan Scott, the nose tackle, number 34 for the Oregon Ducks. He will have the ability to be a force. Now, Caleb Kim better be hitting the weights, because at the point of attack, he's going to be facing Jordan Scott, who can really bust some things up up the middle in that run-pass option that Auburn is going to try to execute against Oregon with either Joey Gatewood or Bo Nix. So look out for Jordan Scott, a very physical force, probably going to be an all Pac-12 player this year. Troy Dye, the linebacker who decides to return, he has a very, very good all-American-ish qualities at the linebacker position, makes some very good plays, very agile and very active at the linebacker position for the Oregon Ducks. Now, when I look at the depth chart for the Oregon Ducks, the most recent one, it actually has true freshman and highly recruited Kayvon Thibodeau as the defensive end. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to play. I thought he was, very, very good athlete, and I thought that he would push for some playing time, but to see him as a starter on the, the media outlets' depth charts is very interesting. We'll see how that story develops for the Oregon Ducks going into the Advocare Classic. Now, arguably, my favorite portion of the Oregon's football team, especially on defense, comes from a very, very active secondary. I think these guys are among some of the better secondary players in the country. They are very, very productive as well as talented. You look at the cornerback position with Thomas Graham with 3 interceptions, very productive last year. I think he's one of the better athletes on the field for Oregon. And then you have Deommodore Lenoir. I hope I said his name right. Like, I've never really seen a name that kind of flowed like that. Deommodore Lenoir, cornerback, had 3 interceptions. Very, very talented cornerback as well. Now, my favorite, outside of Jevon Holland, I really like Jevon Holland. Had 5 interceptions, and he's very, very instinctive as it relates to the safety position. He finds himself in a lot of great positions to make plays in the secondary. But probably just my favorite guy to watch in this particular secondary is Nick Pickett. The reason why I like Nick is he's like it's almost like a linebacker playing safety. He comes up and hits. He's going to provide some really, really good run support for the Oregon Ducks, because that's what he does. He had 59 tackles last year, 1 interception, but he really shows that he does not mind that physicality at the point of attack. Very, very good tackler, very, very physical tackler, and he kind of reminds me of Auburn Smoke Monday, to where you're really going to have to account for where he is and account for, protecting yourself around him, because he does not mind laying the hat. So as we go into the Advocare Classic, I think this is going to be one of the more talented Oregon teams that we've seen from top to bottom. They obviously have aspirations to not only win the Pac-12, but they feel like they have the roster to make it to the college football playoff. You look at last season, had some opportunities there. The last 7 games going 4-3, losing some crucial Pac-12 games down the stretch, but kind of getting it together with a 3-game winning streak to end the season, giving the Oregon Ducks, and also to combat that with a number 7 recruiting class, giving the Oregon Ducks fans a lot of reason to be optimistic coming into the 2019 season. There's going to be some very interesting matchups in this particular game. One that I really would like to note is the matchup between the Oregon offensive line, who appeared at the surface to be very physical, against the Auburn defensive line. I think this is going to be one of the most intriguing matchups as well. Then another matchup that I look at is the matchup between Jordan Scott and Caleb Kim at that center position for Auburn. Another very, very intriguing sets of matchups that I look at is the Auburn secondary against the Oregon receivers. I think Oregon is very talented at the receiver position, and Auburn likewise talented as well. Then another, probably my most intriguing matchups will be the Oregon secondary against not only the Auburn wide receiver core, but how they force decision-making in whoever Auburn chooses as the quarterback. So let's look out for these particular matchups, and it's going to be very intriguing to see how this thing turns out. All right, guys, let's get in this comment section. Let me know what you think about the Auburn-Oregon game coming in the Advocare Classic. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart for Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger on this particular channel. War Eagle.